You ever hear the tragedy of Hangman Adam Page? I thought not. It's a wrestling legend. Oh, it has been some time. It has been some time. Since Double or Nothing, the last time I made a video on wrestling. So, here's what happened. I naturally lost interest in wrestling in the watchable sense, plus I had work and that was taking up a lot of my time, and since I was stopped watching the shows regularly on weekly television, I became less interested in watching just the pay-per-views. And then I was like, I'll wait till they release it on Max or something, or just watch it online and somewhere if they have it, or if they have a cheaper option, because at the time I was just annoyed at the whole thing. And the internet is the internet, and it's going to make me cringe every single chance it gets to make me regret ever being a wrestling fan. But, yeah. This is not a comeback. This is just trying to get myself in comfortable mood again to talk about wrestling as a fan-based project. Jon Moxley, sir. Whoop-de-doo. But yeah, and I'm using my iPhone as a webcam, my iPhone 16 Pro Max. Props to Apple, not sponsored. I wished. That'd be awesome. But I have been I've been active on Twitter a lot with, still calling that Elon, suck it. And I still watch wrestling from the clips and highlights as best I can. I was mostly focusing on the White Six for a little bit. I was like, okay, look, you have to get this right. If you don't get this right, I'm going to be royally pissed. And whatnot. But we're not talking about WWE, at least for now. We're talking about AEW and the other mind-boggling insanity that was Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland at AEW All Out 2024. Oh, God. I did not watch it when it aired live because, like I said, I was on break from watching wrestling, but I heard what happened and I was curious. Like, I was having this itch in my veins wanting to see what was going on. And oh, I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it, and I even saw highlights just to get my adrenaline pumping because, damn it, we're wrestling fans and this is how we roll. And can you just tell me how this happened? Like, okay, actually I know how this happened. Hangman lost his ever-loving mind. Like, it's insane how much power and interest they made this, how dark they turned this story and made the decline of Hangman's popularity following the begrudgingly unfortunate miscommunication, wishing we could go back in time and stop it from happening, Dave Meltzer confessing to that, debacle that was the CM Punk and Hangman Adam Page issue that evolved into the Elite and the Brawl Out and whatnot. And I think AEW has said, you're right. We know Hangman's losing popularity. We know he's hated in Chicago, so we'll make you hate him. And we'll make him sink to the same depths of madness and darkness that Swerve Strickland went down when he was going after Hangman. Because I have not talked about this saga since the Texas Death Match, which was barbaric and awesome. Passionate brutality on display there. I had seen things when watching this. I had seen things seeing this match. It was incredibly gory, violent, mutilation, and okay, let's talk about this highlight. Okay, so we brought back the cinder block and scarred the flesh of Hangman's back, so that happened. Callback. And oh god, I want to talk about the ending so bad because it's just that disturbed. But please know, this all started because Hangman won a charity battle royal, and Swerve came out during it when he was celebrating his charity victory. I question if that's like think about this. This all started when Swerve came out and talked about Hangman, his past, his time as a teacher, and his charity work he was doing when he won the Battle Royal 1 year ago. Hard to believe this is a 1 year feud and it's turned this intense. I'm gonna be honest. If AEW, the only thing I hate about this match is that it wasn't at All Out last year. And not All Out last year, All In. Or at least All In next year to have this kind of match in front of 80,000 people. Over 80,000 plus! And just because this was... like, this is the blueprint right here. The blueprint feud AEW has to invest in again in a year or two, hopefully, and have the saga reignite, because I think I know I'm about to say something that will piss people off, because tribalism is a contagious disease and an epidemic that needs to be solved rather quickly. Doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon, but this is AEW's take on the Austin Rock feud. I'm going to just go out and say that. But this is Hangman Swerve first and foremost. It's just reminding me of how intense that feud got at times. And now we're just like amping it up on adrenaline. And I saw this and I'm just flabbergasted. The cinder blocks, the table, they made a cage match with it, because originally it was supposed to be a cage match, but then Hangman decided to sink even lower than Swerve. Remember when Swerve broke into Hangman's house and met his kid? I'm curious where the wife was and if she did not use a bat to go after him. But okay, unless they did while they slept, in which case, how the fuck is your door locked? But ignore the discrepancies on that. Hangman found out that because Swerve had to advertise it to the world, because of his contract renewal, he bought the old house his childhood home was in, that his mother was forced to move out of due to financial difficulties when they were really young. And Swerve bought it back. Wholesome moment, tender moment right there. And then you realize, wait, Hangman's lost his mind. Swerve Strickland just bought his childhood home. This is a TV-14 show. And we're in that phase where the faces are psychotically psychopathic. Okay, get ready to burn some houses down. And that's what Hangman did. He burned down Swerve's childhood home. And now, like, here's the thing. Before this, you could at least understand where Hangman was coming from. You could understand and still see Swerve as the villain and Hangman as the good guy, because he was understandably pissed off about everything that happened because of Swerve, and especially the success he got and Hangman's decline in influence, to now having sunk to an even darker low than Swerve ever did, because Swerve just broke into the house. He left a shirt, so there. But Hangman just said, okay, I just oiled up this place, burned it alive, burned it to smoldering ashes. Let's effing go. And then Tony Khan immediately after the show went off the air with the destruction of the home announced that Swerve and Hangman was changed from being a steel cage match to a lights out steel cage match. And it was like, okay, so we need to amp up the adrenaline, we need to amp up everything, just put everything on massive steroids. And then when they discussed how this feud was going to end, or at least the first phase of this feud, they basically said, okay, how do we end this? Yes. Oh god, we're going there. So Hangman and Swerve went there. Cinder blocks, tables, chairs, barbed wire chairs, barbed wire wrapped around the cage at times, kicks to the skull, into the cage. Oh, and also trying to, mutilate and stab someone with the smoldering wood spike of a childhood home. Yeah, that was a thing. And then we got the last few. Hangman getting the advantage, dead-eyeing Swerve, and then just going to town on him with the steel chair, cracking at his skull, Swerve taking gratification out of it. I'm pretty sure Bryan Danielson is disappointed that he could not live to be in that moment, because Bryan is psychopathic as well in the horny department. And then it culminates. Swerve goes Hangman more to strike him down. And then Hangman decides to go even further than striking him down. He gets a freaking... Okay, I'll just say it. He gets a fucking syringe and injects the fluids into Swerve's mouth, into his cheek, pressing down on it, stabbing him, and the crowd is shocked that this has happened. And Swerve just goads him further, like, do it! Strike me down, and you will understand a new power. And whatnot. And like, this is basically, hey, what if Luke actually struck down his father in Return of the Jedi? Because that's what happened. Swerve is cracked by Hangman, striking him down with a steel chair, breaking the chair. And I like how the camera panned away to be like this massive gunshot that just went off, and everyone's just like, he did it. And the referee, so horrified at what has become of the situation, stops the match, declares Hangman the winner, but Hangman doesn't get the satisfaction he wants. He gets out of the ring looking all conflicted, and then this is the thing that went from making this a hardcore barbaric masterclass of violence into a masterclass of emotion, because Hangman, when he's up on the ramp, turns around to look at Swerve, seeing Swerve's unconscious form, chair still mangled around his skull, and he goes back down the ring, and they initially assume he's going to go down there and finish the job, more or less, and there's a girl in the audience screaming, telling him, like, in terror, and then he backs away, and the camera cuts to Hangman's face, and you see his lip quivering, like, oh my god, what have I become? And how he's now realized he's destroyed someone's home, a childhood home nonetheless. He's tapped into the same rage and darkness that's consumed Swerve, and he just more or less murdered him on global television and pay-per-view. And then Hangman, left with nothing but the cold embrace, decides to welcome it as he grabs the jacket, raises it in the air, and screams in primordial fury, just letting all the rage and anger out of him to show that, yeah, the cowboy's dead. Long live the outlaw. And yeah, and sure enough, there's even footage after the show went off the air. Glad he's still keeping character to this. Hangman is seen in a video by a fan who recorded afterwards after the show to see Hangman turning around after his screaming of defiance and embracing the coldness that now comes sweeping away at him. He looks at the two tunnels, like they brought back the tunnels in AEW, thank God. Using the environment as a storytelling device is always welcome. He looks at the face tunnel. He takes a step and he can't go in. He hesitates. And then he just looks like he's gonna cry, letting out a sigh, and then he just turns and goes through the heel tunnel, accepting what he has become. And I was like, God damn it, this is so good. Like, here's the thing. The thing I hate about this whole turn, this story, is that it happened over a huge fucked up miscommunication and misunderstanding between various parties in AEW. Had it never happened, or had it been resolved in a more less destructive fashion, imagine had this been Hangman, Swerve, and Punk saga happening in AEW. Like, we would be getting awesome content and with Punk in AEW still. had things been different, or had Tony Khan actually conveyed everything that was going on in order to stop any tensions from rising. But now we can't. I'm like, they could still work it out theoretically. Like maybe 20 years from now, we'll see them appear on a podcast together. No idea on that. But I'm like, that's a possibility. But them working together on TV, yeah, that's not going to happen. The dream's dead. Deader as my soul. So anyways, Hangman. So, Hangman is now fallen. He is no longer the main character. He's no longer the hero of AEW. He is now the darkness. He is the tragedy. He is now Doth Hangman. The tragedy of Hangman Adam Page is complete. He has become what he hates. And he now has to live with the guilt. So yes, he's Anakin Skywalker of wrestling. There, we went there. There, I went there. Sue me. Oh, and they say AEW can't tell stories, so screw the tribalism. Oh god, this was so good. So good. The match was great. The story was great. The character work of Hangman and Swerve was great. Hangman is phenomenal as always in his character work. Oh man. Like, I'm sure he would have done well in WWE. Probably when Triple H would run things. I'm pretty sure Vince would still be spiteful and a petty bastard. Thank God he's no longer around. Sadly, it had to happen via the most destructive of circumstances instead of just retiring into the sunset and never be seen in public view again. That's the dream. Now we can just hope he gets imprisoned. Yeah. But I think Hangman would have done well in Triple H's WWE, but I think he does better being in All Elite Wrestling because, let's be real, like with the Romans, the Codys, and all those other talented wrestlers who are already at the top of the food chain, especially with Randy Orton back and doing his work and doing great stuff, I don't think Hangman would have been able to make it as far as he has in his career like he's doing now if he went to WWE. And they made an offer once upon a time with him, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, mostly the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But Hangman did get an offer at one point. And I'm glad they just said, we don't need this. Like, we can do this maybe later down the road in our lives when we're in our twilight years as wrestlers. But let's change the world. And they more or less did. But Hangman really has been given the madness of it all. Giving his best theatrical work, I feel like, because this is tragic. This is a Shakespearean tragedy right here. Seeing Hangman fall from grace, succumbing to the darkness that has infected All Elite Wrestling, becoming the very evil he hated, and how his inner guilt and conscience, the light side that still lingers in him, trying to make him realize what he's become, only to increase the darkness in his heart, because he's like, he can't go back doing this, he can't be forgiven, he can't do this, he just has to accept the coldness and the embracing of it. And the question is now, who's going to bring him back to the light? I definitely think they should run Hangman and Kenny Omega back down the road. Have that be the way to start Hangman's redemption arc. But yeah, this was your host, Eric Brown of NRE, the Wrestleverse. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, check out my content and other stuff. Be sure to stay tuned for more, hopefully. And January is going to be the 10th anniversary of this channel, of YouTube and content creating in general. We'll see what happens in 2025. Peace.